We are interviewing Andy Howl today. And what is your leadership role?
So I am a priest in the Church of Satan.
Fantastic. What is your role in your religious community, and what are your major responsibilities?
It's merit-based. So if you're risen up through the ranks of the Church of Satan, it's based on your real-world accomplishments and what you've contributed as far as being a leadership position with the church. I started publishing art books and doing art shows with Peter Gilmore, who is the high priest of the Church of Satan, in 2015. So I published going on our 5th hardcover coffee table art book now. And that's kind of how I earned my street cred within the church, is by doing events. I also hosted the 50th anniversary of the Satanic Bible at my gallery tattoo shop. It's been a long line of things. I've just, once I had my foot in the door, I was like, yeah, this is great. And I just continued working with Peter. I fly up to New York and do private events with them also. But what you were saying as far as my role in it is basically just do cool stuff. And it's not like a regular church where you get donations and you have to give money to the church and all this stuff. This is more of I kind of have to get into the bigger idea of what it is and why it is so different. But I mean, essentially it's do things that you want to do, follow your passion in life is essentially how you know, and if you're doing something active with the church, then you most likely will be risen up through the ranks, and there's basically like 5 levels.
Okay, cool. How did you become an adherent in your religion, and how did you become a leader?
I was exposed to the Satanic Bible, which most younger people are, when I was in high school. And that was kind of a product of me like becoming more aware of religion. My grandpa was a Methodist minister, but I never really subscribed to it. I kind of got weird vibes off of all the Christian stuff. It wasn't right for me. And I didn't like how I felt like I was being constantly coerced into joining Christian faith. So my parents didn't really push it on me either. So, but I always was like kind of questioning things. When I was a freshman in high school, my older sister was the only survivor of a car crash that killed all of her friends.
Oh, scary.
It was really bad. Right after she graduated, it was devastating. That kind of turned my brain on, and I started reading more about world religion and occult stuff and just all the stuff I thought was cool, but it all kind of seemed thin to me, and a lot of this is what happens when you die and all that kind of stuff, and none of it really registered with me. I don't know. I was just looking for a more tangible philosophy, and when I read the Satanic Bible, it felt like this is a person that's actually being real. They're not trying to sell me something necessarily, trying to make me join their cult. A lot of what Satanism is like a doorway out of Christianity to a lot of young people. It shuts down the ideas of sin, that we're born bad. It's a pretty big deal. And the more you read into it, the more this is actually a really moral, sound philosophy. Not everybody that I would say is a Satanist goes around saying that they're a Satanist. It's kind of like you're born this way. It's an intrinsic kind of philosophy about being human. So
Okay.
that part of it, and then maybe that's a little bit too much of an explanation for you asked. It's just kind of like a path you go down, and eventually I ended up being like, I'm a Satanist. I also like a lot of Buddhism. I also like a lot of like the Hindu mythology, and I kind of have taken from a little bit of everything.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that all works with what Satanism is, which is an atheistic personal philosophy of how to live your life in an open-minded way. But the way I became a priest, is, like I was saying, is that I started off doing events with the Church of Satan from an art gallery owner and a tattoo artist point of view. I met Peter and Peggy, who run the Church of Satan now, through a friend that I had met during college that's in a band called the Electric Hellfire Club. And I just stayed in touch with him over the years, and he introduced me to Peter and Peggy at a Frank Frazetta art show that I was hosting. I just hit it off with them because I'd always been a huge fan of Anton LaVey's writing, who's the person that created Satanism and the Church of Satan. It just went from there. I was like, hey, would you guys like to do an art show? And then it turned into doing an art book. And then it just kind of became a yearly thing that I was doing. And it just kind of went from there. And then eventually I ended up being elevated by Peter to being a priest, which is an official representative of the church legally.
Super cool. Yeah. I like that. How would you describe your religion and its fundamental message?
It is let me see. It's the opposite of organized religion, where instead of it being about the group, it's about you as an individual and becoming the best person that you can be, given what you're born with, your skill set, your interests. And it's a non-spiritual religion, whereas most religions are very spiritual. It's saying basically spirituality is a lie. Ideas, belief is not good, essentially. It's the basis of it. It's a non-belief oriented religion. There is a mystical element to it. We don't know what happens when we die. Science will prove that. There's some magic to the world maybe that we don't understand yet. But a lot of what it is about people, dealing with people, accepting yourself, and just kind of like being the best person that you can be as far as your life path.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Who are the most important people in your religion, and why are they important? I.e., founder, important thinkers, leaders, etc.
So Anton LaVey was the founder of Satanism. Satanism was a term tossed around a lot previously to when he defined the Church of Satan, but it was never actually a religion. It was kind of used as a way to demonize everything that wasn't Christian. So Jews were considered Satanists. Pagans were considered Satanists. It was like, you're a Satan worshiper because you're not Christian. So basically, I'm going to take this word and turn it into what it actually should be, what it codified it based on all these different kinds of elements, which include everything from occultism to horror movies to, it's still a moral religion. There's a lot of like Ayn Rand and Friedrich Nietzsche in it, even some Carl Jung. It's a lot of stuff put together into a package that had never been done before. A religion based on the power of the individual, that at its core, it's that we are our own gods. And we're in charge of our own lives.
That's impactful.
Which is not, so the word Satan doesn't really have, Satan is like a character. It's pre-Christian technically, and it means adversary. But a lot of what it is the character of Satan or Lucifer being like the rebel. And it's taking that kind of idea across history. Who are the rebel people? And that's kind of the essence of it. Being true to yourself.
I really like that.
But back to the leaders is Anton LaVey was the founder. After he died in 97, that was passed on to his partner, Blanche Barton, who also wrote his biography, The Secret Life of a Satanist. And then at a certain point, she stepped back and passed it on to Peter Gilmore and Peggy Nadramia, who today run the church and are kind of archivists also. but Peter wrote a few books, and they're both writers. Sometimes I just introduce them as writers to people that respond to Satanism. Like, these are my friends that are writers from New York. But it's they're the ones that lead the ship now, and among people in the Church of Satan, they're considered kind of like mom and dad Satan. They're very parent-like to me also.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, it's kind of, and a lot of people in the Church of Satan too are like, they had families that they didn't go along with, so it's almost a de facto kind of family vibe,
makeshift family.
Yeah, it's like that.
I like that. What are the central beliefs and practices within your religion?
So you are your own God. You are in charge of your own life. That's the core of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole list of several lists, the 9 satanic statements, 11 rules of the earth. The essence of it is be a good person, but if somebody, pisses you off, then you have the right to seek retribution if you feel necessary. Go to the law, deal with it however you feel is the correct way to deal with it responsibly. Don't harm children is one of the big ones. Don't harm children or animals unless it's for food. Basically, don't disrespect people and things. Be a good person. That's the kind of the core of it. Beyond that, if someone's in your house and disrespects you, you have the right to be mean to them. If someone's being mean to you, you can, be mean to them also. You shouldn't feel like you have to be this nice person all the time if people aren't being nice to you,
Right. It's kind of like the golden rule: do unto others as you do unto
essentially
yourself.
It's some of that. Yeah. And I think that comes down to like basic human nature, dealing with people in a logical way. We don't need to love everybody. That's illogical. There's no possible way that you could love everybody in the world, people you don't even know.
Right.
Humanity at its core isn't bad, but there are a lot of bad people, and you don't need to treat them like a family member.
Right.
It's more of an insulated Addams family kind of mentality about how to treat the world.
Okay, cool. No,
also, one of the other big things too is that humans essentially are animals, and that our core nature is not something that we should be afraid of. As far as like there's no such thing as sin. We're not born into sin. We're not bad because we're born. That's a horrible concept to teach a child. That's another thing too, is that you don't teach religion to children. Children should be left alone. Religion and this kind of philosophies and stuff, these are for adults. Keep it out of kids' minds. They shouldn't be worried about religion and gods and demons and all this stuff that has been taught to them over centuries. It's not necessary. Let kids be kids. Treat them morals, but leave the philosophy, the spirituality, any of that stuff, leave it up to them when they're an adult.
Follow up to that, when do you think it would be appropriate to start? Like, what age or what signals do you think would be appropriate to teach them those things?
I don't think that you should teach necessarily. I think that you should present information. Like, here's Satanism, here's Buddhism, here's what Christianity is. Like, treat it like that. But don't try to force anything on anyone. That's kind of one of the main rules of Satanism too, is that if you're a priest or whatever, that's not part of the thing. You're not going around trying to convert people. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you believe is your own business. And like, everybody should have their own ideas and their own beliefs and their own or lack of beliefs. Like, I don't believe anything. Treating people with respect rather than treating people like they are consumers waiting to be sold a product. We don't need to sell people products. Religion shouldn't be like buying groceries. It's personal stuff and how you treat the world and how you view the world. not something that should be door to door forced on people, you know?
I fully agree there.
And that's also one of the tenets of the Church of Satan, that religions should pay taxes just like any other business. And the Church of Satan is a tax-paying business based on that premise. It's not a nonprofit organization that's tax-free. It's a point of view that they have had since the beginning, and it's churches should pay taxes just like everybody else. They're making tons of money. Why should they be tax-free?
Yeah, that's insane. I had no idea that they did that, honestly.
Yeah, there are other groups that call themselves satanic. They have registered as a Christian church, and they do take tax-free exemption, but the Church of Satan has never done that, and it prides itself on that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What sacred texts or important writings are in your religion, and why are they important?
The Satanic Bible is the book that codified Satanism, and it was released in 1969. The church started in 1966, and then Anton LaVey was approached to put out the Satanic Bible. So it got put out around 69. It's split into two parts. The first part is the core philosophy of, and a lot of it is anti-Christian. You know, it's kind of a Darwinian philosophy. And then the second half of the book is ritual. Things that you can do. The ritual is kind of an important part of the religion, but it's not really necessary. If you feel the need, because most people that are part of religions now, there is some kind of ritual part of it that they kind of need, like a sacred time. And so that is included in Satanism, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. What religious festivals, holidays in your religion, and why are they important?
Well, in Satanism, the number one holiday is your birthday, because it is a religion of the self. So, I mean, celebrating your birthday is basically, that's the number one holiday in Satanism, is your own birthday.
That's cool. I'm on board.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I mean, some religions, you can't even celebrate your birthday. It's retarded.
Really?
I mean, it's ridiculous. I shouldn't use that word. It's ridiculous. It's just, I mean, I believe, there's a few religions, people that my son went to grade school with, and they were not allowed to celebrate birthdays, and they couldn't even go to your birthday party.
Do you know which religion by chance?
I believe I'm not sure if it's Mormon or if it's Jehovah. I think it's Jehovah's Witnesses.
I think so too.
Yeah,
there was a girl in my school that couldn't do birthday stuff. That's wild.
That just doesn't make sense to me. You know, it just doesn't add up.
No.
But after that, it's I mean, Halloween is a big one that Satanists love.
Yeah.
I love Devil's Night too, because it's, you know, I grew up in Michigan, and Devil's Night is just part of growing up, you know. Walpurgis Night is at the end of April. It's considered like it's kind of like halfway to Halloween, but it's traditionally considered like the witches' Sabbath, where you would get together and have a party.
Fun. What is your religion's view on God, supreme beings, purpose of humanity, and humanity's relation to this God or supreme being?
Okay, so Satanism is one of the few religions that says there is no God, there is no necessarily even an afterlife. It's in some way it's nihilistic, but it's essentially it's a question mark. Like, we don't know what happens when we die, but it seems in general that there's nothing, that it's like going to sleep.
Okay. I hope
but it's open-ended. I think that some people may feel differently about that, but in general it's like, we don't know. Why should we try to explain what we don't know? Let's treat it more scientific.
I like that. What does your religion believe about the origin of human life? And we just kind of talked about this one, what happens after death.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're Satanists are scientists also, and science is part of the religion. So we are fact based. You know, it's like let's look at archaeology. Let's look at that. But I mean, ultimately, I think it's all theory at this point. I don't think there's any way for us to really know how life started or what the purpose to life. I don't mean, there probably isn't a purpose to life. We have to make our own purpose. That's kind of my feeling on it. And I think that's kind of the satanic way of looking at life too, is life is a cool adventure. We don't know why we're here. Let's do cool things and like have good experiences. And, we know that we have an expiration date. We don't know when that is. Most of us don't know when that is. But I mean, live life to the fullest while you're here. Treat it as an adventure that's a positive experience and go from there.
Cool. Is there a fundamental problem that your religion seeks to overcome? If so, describe it in detail.
I mean, the Church of Satan it's very individual oriented. And so in that way, it's about bettering yourself. As far as politics and problems with the world go, that's kind of a different story. Satanism is non-political. The Church of Satan was created as a non-political group because in an environment where you have the same philosophy, you don't necessarily have the same philosophy about politics or what government is the best way to handle a country. So it's kind of like, let's leave that up to each person individually, and we can talk about it, but it's not part of the core philosophy. One of the things that is part of the core philosophy is keeping religion out of government. Nobody in the Church of Satan thinks that there should be religion that's one religion that is part of the government where it becomes a theocracy, because that ends up just becoming fascism. You can't have one belief system that controls the country. It doesn't work. You can't do that because it just becomes this control machine. And time after time, we see that anytime religion is part of the government.
Yeah. Is there a fundamental solution or goal within your religion?
I think the goal, as far as what I was just saying goes, is to help keep religion out of government. But I think it's done in kind of the same way as the Freemasons have done it. They also have a similar kind of ideology. Freemasonry, in a lot of ways, has always been there to kind of keep the separation between church and state. Church of Satan isn't trying to go out there, fly the Satanism flag, and use it to keep religion out of schools and government. Let's keep it personal and let's get into positions in the government where we can influence it and do it correctly, not from necessarily like a sensationalist activist point of view. Let's actually become politicians. If that means you need to not tell people that you're a Satanist because you're afraid of what they're going to think about you because they're Christians, then do that. Let's make real change happen and do it from the inside.
Right. Cool. How do individuals convert in your religion, and how are they expected to believe/live after their conversion?
I mean, people typically aren't converted. No one's trying to convert anybody. If you start reading Anton LaVey's books and you like that stuff and you do a deeper dive into the internet. Let me close this door real quick.
No, you're good.
Bark. No bark. But like I was saying, nobody is trying to convert anybody else into Satanism. It's more of like a personal path thing. If it fits you and it makes sense to you, which it does to a lot of people once they start reading it, because it's just kind of like common sense, like, yeah, that does place things pretty good. They might not necessarily want to call themselves Satanists. I mean, that's usually the thing. Like, why would I call myself a Satanist? To me, Satan is a cool character. To you, you're basing it off of your Christian viewpoint that Satan is like the Lord of Darkness or something, and is trying to ruin the world or create a war between good and evil or something. And that's all bullshit. To me, Satan's just a character, that's like a rebel.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. So, but if you coming from the point of view that Satan's like this dude that's trying to, ruin your life, then yeah, it's no point in even, just don't even bother looking at it, because you got to deprogram yourself from all that crap you were taught to begin with.
Right, before you can even start to think of that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you consider yourself a Satanist, then you probably have read the moral basis that is talked about in Anton LaVey's writing, which is like, don't harm children or animals, treat people with respect unless they disrespect you. These types of things, if you fully adapt the philosophy and identify with it, you're probably going to be a pretty level-headed person, and you're going to be a moral person, and you're going to be typically a law-abiding person as well.
Our next question is, what does your religion believe regarding other religions?
I mean, I think to each their own is essentially the philosophy. You believe what you believe, and I'll believe or not believe what I want. And as long as it's essentially just everybody should stay in their own lane, and there shouldn't be, part of the whole problem with humans is that we keep getting into wars over belief. If people would just stop doing that, stop pushing their beliefs on other people, and they could probably get along a lot easier.
Right.
And I think that's kind of like the essence of Satanism too, is, it's the Addams Family kind of mentality, was I'm going to live how I want to live, and it's not going to hurt anybody else. And that's kind of how religion should be also. Like, if you want to congregate and to get together and kind of be culty or whatever, that's your choice. You can live that way. Doesn't mean I want to live that way. And you shouldn't be pushing any of your beliefs onto me, just as I am not going to try to push any of my thoughts or ideas onto you. We can have a discussion about it, but that doesn't mean anyone should be converted or forced to convert or like put in prison because they don't think the same way as you. I mean, these are all ideas. These are all really antiquated ideas that we need to get past.
Right. Cool. All right. The next question. What do you think are the biggest issues / obstacles facing your religion today? I'm sure this one will have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to be open, for me, I'm okay being open that I'm in Satanism. You can come, you can find me, I'm not, because it works with my job. I'm a tattoo artist. I'm an artist. I'm independent. I'm my own boss. I'm also like almost 50 now. So it's like, I'm not too worried about stuff anymore. I can do my own thing and make money.
Right.
For other people, though, they can't really go out and say they're Satanists because there's so much stigma attached to it, because we live in a Western culture that's dominated by this cultish religion called Christianity. And if you're not one of them, you're against them, and they hate you, and they'll try to ruin your name. This has happened over and over again throughout the last 50 years, and even before that, it's very aggressive religions that the world is filled with still. And there just doesn't seem to be an end to it at this point. It seems to be coming back up again now.
Right.
People are just really angry, and they just don't want to see anybody else's point of view.
Yeah, it is. It is hard for people to be open-ended to things.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's obviously the big one. For one reason or another, the word Satanism has become more pop culture, for better or worse.
Right.
I think that people that identify with the philosophy are typically, private people, and they keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
There's something called tucking the bath, which is what you do when you're around people, and that if you're wearing like a Baphomet necklace, like a lot of Satanists wear,
Yeah.
they'll put it under their shirt covertly,
so people don't see it. Yeah.
So there's some stigma attached to it all still. I feel, to me, it's slowly going away. I grew up in the 80s and 90s during the Satanic Panic era.
Right.
And it was all over the news that cartoons were satanic and breakfast cereal was satanic. Music is satanic and it's ruining the kids.
Yeah.
And really the problem is that kids were rebelling against this hardcore Christian weight that was being put on them,
Yeah.
and they were using metal and Satanism as a way to like act out against it.
I'm familiar with it. I have a tattoo of the devil on my calf. So I keep that very well hidden if I am going to be around any of my very Christian belief-based family.
Yeah. I was running an art gallery tattoo shop, and I was just having art events with the Church of Satan. And then suddenly the rumor was that I was actually a satanic church. And I'm like, that's not true at all. I'm just running a tattoo shop and an art gallery.
Right.
It's because of the stigma attached to it. People are like really quick to jump at it, even though they really have no idea what they're talking about. It's just based on rumor and what they're told by this gigantic cultish organization that's trying to rule the world.
Also, the fear of the unknown. People are afraid of what they don't understand.
Well, people are afraid of a lot of stuff they shouldn't be. A lot of the ideas of like darkness and stuff come from our own fears of our bodies and ourselves, who we are as humans at the core.
Right. How does your religion engage with the controversial issues in contemporary society?
The Church of Satan is unto itself in a sense. We don't feel the need to really fix anything. It's more art oriented in a lot of ways. Like I do stage shows, and I'm kind of more out there than a lot of people, just because I see the art of it and I see the theatrics of it, and I really like that stuff. I'm also lead singer of a band. I like the theatrics. I think that a lot of Satanists are worried that, especially in the Church of Satan, that the Satanic Panic era is coming around again, and we need to be like hiding more.
Right.
And I don't necessarily feel that way, obviously, because I'm doing things that are pretty public. It depends on your job and all these other things too, like I was saying before. But at its core, I think it's kind of like an Addams Family mentality. We're insulated, and you kind of just have to mind your own business. Especially when things start getting really hot, if the U.S. government keeps going deeper into theocracy, and we've got this Department of Belief, and it gets more and more Christian. When you go to like a courtroom and the entire jury are all Christians, you're probably going to go to jail because they just don't like you.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing that, it's like being a scientist during the early Renaissance or something, and they just will put you in jail because they think you are like experimenting on human cadavers in the name of science. And they don't like that. They don't want you to know any more about the human body than we already do. It's kind of like that thing is like, what is the best method of dealing with a very religious society? And there's no easy answer.
Right. For sure.
But I think my personal point of view is do interviews like this, like put myself out there a little bit, not too much. I'm not an activist. I'm not going to go out and picket churches or government buildings.
Right.
Not my thing. I'm not gonna. There's ways of doing things that it needs to be more on the level.
Educational.
Nonprofit organizations that are purely political, that are trying to keep the separation between church and state. I don't think that a religious group should necessarily be the ones going after the government and trying to keep things separate. That needs to be on a political level.
Right. Yeah, I agree. What is your religion's view of science and technology?
Oh, all for it. Until the point where it becomes a problem, such as AI.
Yeah.
I think we all know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of end of the world scenarios that running through everybody's mind. I mean, look at movies. So I think that science is a great way of approaching the world, looking for facts. Technology could lead us down a different path, and that's still to be seen what happens with that.
Right.
Hopefully it does not ruin us. But I mean, obviously it's a useful tool, but it's also made people lazy. The less physical labor we're doing, the more we're just becoming brains in jars. There's some core of technology that is the kind of let's be brains in jars and depart from our earthly bodies. And I think that's a horrible philosophy. I think that the best jobs are jobs that you're using your body and your mind, and technology is kind of steering us towards just being in a bubble.
Yeah, no, I have my body so I can do things.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love my body. You should love your body. I think that there are some base kind of issues with Western ideology that are kind of steering us one direction that we kind of need to deal with as a race, as a species.
Yeah, we've all gotten lazy. It's a bit excessive.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced hostility from others as a result of being religious?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I have had death threats that have been reported to the FBI. I haven't had anybody physically attack me yet, but I know many people that are Satanists that have been physically attacked because people just are very opinionated. A lot of Christians are just very hostile. Not that we were, myself or anybody else was being aggressive to them. It's just there is a gut level reaction a lot of Christians have, and other religion, even Muslims probably, and Jews, not so much Jews, I don't think. But I mean, definitely the more hardcore religions like Christianity and Muslim that are very aggressive.
Right.
A lot of people can be so wrapped up in that belief they can be violent. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's that my being is an affront to them. Just me being alive and not being Christian is that upsetting to them where they need to violently react. I don't know what that is, but it can become a problem, and that's why I do have high security when I do shows, and I do I just started to conceal carry because
for your own protection.
Yeah, it's something that's on my mind, and it's around my family and stuff also because I am so out in front. It is on everybody's mind a little bit. People can be really crazy. Are you sure you want to be doing this? Yeah, no, I'll be fine. I mean, at a certain level, I think of any kind of notoriety, you have to be aware of your personal safety. No matter if it's you're the priest in the Church of Satan or you're just a famous movie star or something. Once you hit a certain point in your life, along your life path, I think you just kind of have to be aware of that. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Make sure all the doors are locked at night. Those are kind of all these things I think about, because the world is crazy. The world is hostile.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Right. I fully understand that side. What resources do you recommend to be able to learn more about your religion?
I mean, Satanic Bible you can still buy at Barnes & Noble. I just was there and there was copies on the shelf. That's the best way to jump into it. if you really want to get a full view of it, it's the easiest thing to do is go to the churchofsatan.com website. It's a very extensive FAQ. People usually ask the same questions over and over and over again. So the best thing to do is just go to the FAQ. There's literally an answer for any question there.
Okay. Cool.
And also like the 9 satanic sins, the 11 rules of the earth, all that stuff is on there. That's the moral base for Satanism. Anton LaVey is the founder of Satanism. He was published a lot by Feral House, and he did a lot of writing. He kind of became a writer the more he got into running the religion, and his writing is really great because it's not super wordy or anything. When he writes, it's kind of like he's being very upfront and factual with you, which makes it really easy to read.
Yeah.
There's plenty of books out there by him that you can get on Amazon or at some bookstores. Not many, but some bookstores.
Right.
I think we're kind of running out of bookstores.
Unfortunately, we need more of that, not less.
But Amazon obviously has it all. And also Peter Gilmore's book, The Satanic Scriptures, is canon. That's another really good one to pick up. But yeah, they're out there. It's Anton LaVey and Peter Gilmore are the main two writers. That's the core of the philosophy, the religion.
Okay. All right. So now the questions that I came up with.
All right.
If you had to pick another religion to follow, excluding atheism, agnosticism, and Satanism, what would you choose and why?
I'd probably go with like Zen Buddhism, just because it's about living in the now, having a sense of calm, and kind of seeing the life as like an adventure. And and there's no God in Buddhism. It's nirvana. So I think that's a more open-ended kind of concept. I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. I think it's a possibility. Like the recycling energy.
Yeah,
I'm open-minded to that stuff, and I like a lot of Buddhism. I think a lot of it is really cool.
Okay, fun. And then the second question is, what does a satanic baptism look like for somebody that hasn't seen one before? Like, what's going to happen?
Well, let me start that off by saying that baptism is not something that's it's a stage thing I do, but it's not actually a thing that you're supposed to do to become a Satanist. It's just kind of an affirmation thing. If you want me to baptize you, I can, because you're like you want a marker, in your life, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, I did that. But what I have done on stage is I have women in like robes, and a friend of mine in a robe with a gong. So there's like bell ringing, there's gong, there is organ music, and then kind of like weird ambient, kind of like rumbling, kind of thundery music that I have it has kind of a horror movie aesthetic, but in a church environment kind of vibe. So I'm taking some things from like Catholicism, but it's reshaped into like kind of this darker horror movie aesthetic.
Yeah.
And it has some kind of 60s flavor to it, just in the lighting and stuff like that. It's a production. It's supposed to be cool.
Right.
So I do an invocation, and I call off to Satan, Lucifer, Belial, all the so-called demons of the pit. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then these are all just symbolic. Nobody in Satanism actually believes in gods and demons. This is an atheist religion. Right. So it's more about the experience and the ritual environment and the coolness of that aesthetic. So on stage, what I do is I condemn Christianity in a sense, and I pull out pages from a Bible and I burn them on stage. Okay. And then I turn the burnt pages, I turn that into like a liquid paste with some almond oil usually. Okay. So it's like it's basically a little like thick little gray substance, and I have the people come up on stage one at a time, And I have them stand on this like light box. So there's like this light coming from underneath them. And I ask if they wish to be baptized in the name of Satan, and if they reject Christianity and the foul beliefs taught by the church.
So it's like a Christian baptism in reverse.
It's kind of like reverse baptism, but it's not. It's kind of like stepping through a door into like just being yourself.
Yeah.
I rejected this crap that I was taught, because most of us have been taught into Christianity. Let's face it, it's what we were kind of pushed into, and it's not great. So it's kind of, that's part of it. And the next part of it is accepting you are your own God and in charge of your own future. So it's not just a reverse baptism. It's kind of, let's undo that. Let's break that down. And then let's put you on the right path to just being yourself.
Cool. Well, that concludes all of my questions. That was fantastic and very insightful. I really appreciate getting to have this conversation.
Totally. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.